Is there anything else you could give the audience about that sort of pre-planning? They
Yeah.
have to have a process they're going to follow up, but like, you know, I would think like getting your core people around and saying, who are we as a company? And, what are we mapping to as a culture? What does that look like?
Yeah. So, and we actually walked through this process when we were doing a recruiting for a customer, because it's super important. You need to have an employment brand that everybody within your organization understands. So, and you hear like employment brand, really, does that absolutely make sense? Well, the thing is, when you want to get a new customer, you're going to focus on your branding. You're going to focus on making sure that they hear about that branding all the time. They say that the seventh time someone hears about your business, they actually remember the name and think, okay, maybe I could work with those people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I don't even know if seven's the right number. It's probably higher now with all the bombardment of content that we're getting all the time. But
Mm-hmm.
regardless, there's a certain number of times that all of a sudden they're going to resonate with that brand. If you want to hire the best people, you need to have an employment brand. You need to be an employer that people want to work for because they know you exist. They know you have a great culture. They know other people there, and you have clearly articulated what that culture is. When I was running the labor market data company, we did a lot of job posting analytics. So we'd look at job postings out there and try and look at trends that were associated with those. And one of the things we saw was this posting intensity. Basically, if you're going to post a job on ZipRecruiter, Indeed, and Monster.com, you're going to pay for all three of those job postings. And so if a company is paying for a job posting on multiple locations, they're clearly trying to get people for
Mm-hmm.
that one position. And so that tells you something about how desperate they are to fill this, or how hard they have to work to try and get the right talent inside their four walls.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft, when I was doing this analysis several years ago, they had 12 job postings for every opening within Microsoft. So they had 12-to-1 ratio, which means they were spending a lot of money, putting a lot of effort, sorting through a lot of candidates from all these different platforms to try and get one good person within their organization. Whereas Tesla had a 2-to-1. So instead of them working so hard, they didn't have to work as hard to get good talent because they had an employment brand. People knew about Tesla. They wanted to work for Tesla. They're like, Tesla's innovating.
Mm-hmm.
Tesla's changing the world. Tesla's right. So their employment brand was so strong that they didn't have to worry as much about getting the right people
Yeah.
because they knew they were going to be attracted to them. So that's the first thing. So an employment brand.
Okay.
And then the second thing is we call it a talent network. And think of a talent network as kind of like your email drip campaign you use to try and engage customers and try and sell them things, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to have a bench or a squad of people who would like to work for you at some point in the future. And so we build talent networks at Red Balloon, but there's a number of organizations or tools out there that you can use. But basically, you want to have a group of super fans, hundreds of people who've raised their hand and said, I would like to work for you someday because they've engaged in your employment brand and they know you're kind of type of company you want to work for. Think about that, how magical it would be instead of starting from scratch every time you want to hire. If you're like, well, I've got 1,000 people over here who've already raised their hand and said they want to work for me. They're engaged in my employment brand. I've already put them on a monthly drip campaign about what we're doing at our organization. Yeah. Like that is the way to hire.
That's
So
huge.
yeah, it's amazing. So we help businesses do that. We did it for PragerU, and they had 50 people join their talent network just voluntarily in the first week.